Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to this series that we are designing. So in the previous video, we talked about how we can create our project on GitHub. Then from GitHub, we will now clone it to our local repository. Then we created our boilerplate, something like this, and we linked our CSS to our HTML. And that is what we will also continue. So if I open my folder structure, I have some things here. So I have added all the images that we'll be using for this. Don't worry, I will show you where I got these images from the Figma design so that you can actually see how to do your own. So I just made that so that it can be easy for me. And you can see inside the images folder, I have the icons folder. So I have this particular folder for the star icon, which is the same thing with this. One is open and one is closed. Then I have the various images we need for this particular design. So I think that's basically the thing I've added. Everything is still the same thing. My CSS is still just the basic CSS I have here, and my HTML is just the hello world that I have here. So if I go back to the website or the web page, this is basically what I have. So now let's go back and see the design we are working on. So now the first thing to add is the navigation bar, which is the header. So let's see how we can go ahead and add this navigation bar. And also permit me to just end the video as I continue to talk. So now let's go back to that. So now in my web page, I have this particular thing. So I'm going to start by creating a header tag. So we call these semantic tags. So semantic tags are tags that by the name of the tag, we already know what the tag is going to do. So we have a header tag. That simply means we want to create a header, something like that. So let's give this a class. We can call this top header, a class of top header. So let's go to our CSS to style this top header. So I want to give this a width. Sorry. So I'll call this top header. I want to give it a width. So this is not just an imaginary style that we're adding here. If we go to the Figma design, now we want to work from the Figma design. This is what we want to design. So once we click on this and go to inspect, so you can see the CSS value for this. You can see where the border is locating. This is what I want to design. So this is the design for it. I can actually copy this the way it is, copy it, Control C, then go to my code and actually paste it there. Yes, it's still the same thing. So once I do this, I'll just format it very well. So format documents. So now everything should actually work. If I go to my design here and refresh, so I have something like this. So you can see the design is actually out here for me. So that's actually how to convert your Figma design to actual code. So I am not imagining the dimensions. The design has given me the dimensions already. So I will just copy them. But there are some few changes you can make. For example, the design might look a little bit bigger if you add it. So you are allowed to reduce the size if you want to, but don't change it too well. So just work with the design the way the design has given it to you. Now let's go back to the design. Now this design, I can say I have two parts of this design. I have this part that has the logo and I have this part that have the navigation bar. So I want to divide this header into two parts, where the first part will take care of the logo and the second part will take care of my navigation. So once I go back to my code, I'm going to create a div here. And I want to give this div a class of, let me say, image side, any class you want to call it. So that's it. Then outside these, I want to create another div. I want to give it a class of nav side, something like this. So for me to work on this, I have to give this particular container a display flex. So this display flex will allow me to display the content side by side. So it's not a must that you use display flex. You can use grid, display grid, you can use float left and the rest of them. It depends on what you want to use and what. But for myself, I would prefer to use a display flex property because it's easier for me to work with that. So that simply means that these two divs in this header will stay side by side. Let's see what will happen if we don't have the display flex. So I want to comment on this. So I can put a write-up here, image, and I want to put a write-up here, navigation, something like this. So once I save this and go back to this, if you check here, you can see image navigation. They are sitting under each other. You can see the navigation is sitting directly under the image, but I want them to stay side by side. So that's where the display flex comes to play. If I uncomment this and go back, you can see they are now side by side. I'll now use CSS to style it more the way I want it to be. So inside the image side, I want to add the logo. So if I go back to my Figma design and click on this, once you click on this, you can see the style for this. And once you go to export and click on this particular you can preview it. You can see this is the logo I want to get. So I can actually export. Once you export, it will be downloaded to your local system. So you can now add it to the folder you want to add it. So that's basically how to get the image from the Figma design. You click on that image. Once you click on it, you go to the export property, then click on the image itself. So once you do that, you click on the preview to see if that is actually the image. Then you click on export to export that particular image. But because I already have it, there is no need downloading it again. You can go ahead and download it for yourself. So once I do this, so I'm now going to add the image. So what I will do is this, I'll go to images, and I would think that image should be cover1.png if I'm not mistaken. If I click on this, yes, that's the image, cover1.png. So I want to give it an alternate attribute, which I will call logo. It's paramount that you give an alternate attribute to your images. So now I've done this, I want to style that particular image. So I will just do dot top header, then which is now inside the top header, I want to have dot image side, top header, image side. I want to give it a width. So, but before I want to add this image, let's see the position that these things are occupying. The top side, that's the image side, and the navigation side. Let's see the position each of them is occupying. So I want this to occupy a width of, let's say, 40%. And I want it to occupy a height of, let's say, 100%. So the same thing I want to do for my nav side, something like that. So I will change this to nav side. So I normally tell people to add a border to see the area that your work is. Once you are done, you can remove it. So we use 1 pixel solid red, something like that. And I can also use the same thing, we say border 1 pixel solid red, something like this. So once we save this is 40. Let's make this 58. So once we save this and go back to here, you can see I've divided this into 2 parts. This is where my image will be, and this is where my logo will be. You can see this particular part with the border. You can see this part with the border. So now I have seen that my navigation bar is actually sitting properly. So I can go ahead and remove the border. So I can now uncomment this image. Let's add the image. So I will just come here so that let me not duplicate things. I will just copy this. Then I will call the image tag, which is what I want to style. So with the image tag, if we still go back to our code, the image has already come out here for us. But let's see what we have for the image. Here we'll go to inspect. You can see we have some styles for the image. Even the image was added from CSS. You can also add the image directly from CSS, but I'll prefer to do that in the HTML. So you can see the image has a width and the image has a height. It has a width of 159 ps. It has a height of 80 ps. It has left and it has right, something like that. So let's just copy this the way it is. So .image, so we'll just paste this. So I will format this. So once I save this and go back, you can see the image is now aligning well. So that is, so you can see design is pretty much easy if you are using the Figma design and you are sticking exactly, you are working exactly how the design says you should do that. So we have done for the image side. So we are now going to the navigation side. So here in the navigation side, I want to create a nav tag. So whenever you see a nav tag, it simply means you are working on some navigation links. So I want to create a UL tag, which is an unordered list. So I want to create an LOI tag, which is a list tag. Inside here, I want to create an A tag, which is an anchor tag. So once we go back to what we have, so we have services, about, coupons, contacts, and specials, something like that. So let's have that. Services, let me duplicate this into 5 places, I think. Services, about. The next one should be coupons. The next one should be contacts. And the next one should be specials. So that's it. So we have these 5 navigations for us here. So once we go back to the design, we have something like this. So you can see everything is actually under each other, which is fine. We will now use our CSS to actually specify how we want it to be. So we are now going to talk to the UL. The UL is responsible for everything being under each other because all the links are directly under the UL tag. So we are now going to talk to the UL, which is inside the nav side. So we'll copy this, scroll down here, put nav side. So under nav, under UL, so we can just say display flex. So flex this. So once we flex this, the UL, if we save and go back, you can see now that everything is on the same line, but they have a dot. They have a dot on each of them, which is normal for a list. So for us to remove that dot, we use a list star type of none. A list star type of none. So that means we want to remove those bullet points on each of those lists. So having done that, now let's style the LOI. So we'll have this. We'll copy this, come down here, paste it, LOI. So let's go back to our Figma design. So once I click on each of these, I have some CSS properties that have been specified here for me to use. It's telling me to use the width of this, height of these, and the rest of them. So I'm going to copy this. I don't need the position absolute, so I'll just go to copy this. So once I Control-C, go back to my code and paste this. So I'm going to explain what I have here. So this is having a width. Let me format it. So this is having a width of 139 ps. It's having a height of 34 ps. We don't need this left. So I can just remove this left. I will use margin for this instead of using left. You can decide to use it if you want, but I want to use margin for it. So I'm going to use a margin top of, let's say, 34 ps. So it's having a font family of this. It's having a font style of normal. It's having a font width of 400. It's having a font size of 26. Line height of this. So I want to just add a few more style to this. I will do a test align of center. So I want everything to align at the center. So I will do a margin left of 15 ps, I think that's basically it. We have a line height of 32. So that's basically what I have for this. So once I save and go back, I have something like this, which is pretty much okay. But it's still faint, which we can't see. So we need to change the color. So to do that, we'll just talk to the A tag. The A tag is responsible for the color. So I will just copy this. Let me reduce this a little. Copy this, come back here and paste, then call the A tag, and then hit my enter key. So in the A tag, I will just say color, which is white, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I can remove, let me show you what I want to do first, but let's see what we have in the output. So we have something like this. Then there is an underline in each of the links. This is called because it is a link. And to remove that underline, we use a test decoration none. So we use test decoration none to remove the underline. So once we go back, we have something like this. And we have actually worked on the navigation. But there is something else that I should mention. If we check back, this is having a red background, which is different from the other. So how do we style that, which is this? So we can decide to give this A tag a class of, let's say, special, something like that. Any class you want to call it, you are not limited to using special. So I will copy this to style it separately. So that's the essence of giving a class to your elements. So we are calling this special, closing this and opening it. So it's having a background. If we go back, let's go back and so I will not write it ourselves. So we'll come here. Everything is almost the same thing, just few changes. It's having a background on this and border of this. So we'll just copy this, come back and paste. It's having a background this, and it's having a border of this. And let's see what we have. Let's format and go back to our browser. We have something like this, which is not very good. So let's give it padding so that we can have spaces inside, something like that. So I can just do a padding of, I want to give it a padding top of 10 PS and a padding left and right of, let's say, 40 PS. So padding top and bottom 10 PS, padding left and right of 40 PS. So padding and margin takes 4 values. The first value is for top, the second value is for right, the third value is for bottom, and the last value is for left. That's if you are using 4 values. But you can also use 2 values for it, just like what I've done here. I'm using 10 and 40. So the first value, which is 10, is for margin top and bottom. And the second value, which is 40, is for for padding right and left. The same thing applies to margin. So once I save this and go back, you can see we have something like this. And our navbar is looking very much like what we have here. So I think I have, let me change the font width a little to like 200, and let me change this to like 20. Let me see what I have. Well, I think this is pretty much better. So we have services, about, coupons, contact, and specials. So now we have worked on the navigation side of our website. So let's look at the next thing to do. We want to put on this background that we have here. Sorry. I want to put on this background that we have here that have welcome to Crazy Car Wash. Then there is a button here to actually make an appointment. And let's see how we can do that. So now let's see how we can add that particular disk. So everything here, we can close it up. We can close this up because we are done with it. So I want to create a tag called the main tag, because everything here is like our main site. Everything from here down here is our main site. This is just the footer. So I want everything here to be wrapped inside the main tag. So that's why I have my main tag here. So having this main tag, I want to now create a div, which I will call a wrapper, class of wrapper, something like that. So now I want to style the wrapper. So if we go back here we have this. Let's check the style that we have here. It's having a width of this, a height of this, and this is the background. It's having width of this, height of this, and it's having a background of this. So I am going to copy this and see what I have. So here I will just copy this too. I'll add the background. Should I add it from CSS? All right, we'll add the background from CSS also. So let me just copy this and we'll go back here. So we'll call the main, which is the tag. I will now call wrapper, something like that. So now let's paste in what we have actually copied. So let's format these. Since we have this, let's give this a border to see what we have. Border 1 PS solid red. So let's see, we have something like this, 1 PS solid red. And I guess this particular thing is somewhere inside here. If I'm not mistaken, yes, it's somewhere inside here. And the reason for that, if I'm to guess correctly, is because I have this absolute position here, right? Yes, it's because of that absolute position there. So because I've removed the absolute position, this border is now out for us to see. So basically, I don't need this absolute position here. So now that I have added this, I can continue working on the wrapper. So I have added a width of this, a height of this, border red. I don't need this border, it's just to show us where our content is. So after removing the height, we want to now add the background image. So we can put on the background image. And if we go back here, this is our image. If we click on export and click on this plus sign, click on preview, we can see the image. So you can actually click on this export to export the image if you want. Because I have already done that, I'm not going to export it. So you just click on this export, the image will be downloaded on your system. So background image, here we are going to specify the image using the URL pattern. So here we specify that we are going to images. So from images, we want to select back.png, which is this is where our image is. So now after selecting the image, we want to write some styles for this image using background size. We want the background size to cover the full width. So after background size, we want background position to be at the center. So after background position to be at the center, I think we will also display it flex. I will explain why we will display flex, but for now, let's leave it the way it is. So once we save and go back, we have something like this. So our image is actually showing at the background, which is pretty much it. So now the reason I want to add a display flex because from here, we have some content here that is at the center of the page. So with display flex, I can justify my content to be at the center of this page. So that's why I want to add a display property of flex. Display flex. So from here, I can now add justify content center and test align center or align items rather center. So this will allow every item I add on this to actually come to the center of our page. So now I have this. The next thing to do is to actually have this particular write-up here. So I want to create a div, which I will give a class of, let's say, center me. You're allowed to use any class of your choice. So we have a class of center me, something like that. So let's try to style the center me. If we still go back and click on this, and click on expect, we have something like this, the style that you can use for it. If you want, you can use it. I'm going to, not even if you want, I'm going to use it. So let's go back and have it down here. So we'll copy this. We'll do this dot wrapper dot center me. We have something like this. So we are giving this a width of 520 PS. We are giving these align items of center. So once the content inside is to be at the center, and we want the text align also to be at the center, something like that. So inside this center me, we want to create a p tag. A p tag will be responsible for this content here. So if we scroll up, you can see the content here. You can just copy it. So we'll go back and just paste it. So we have this content here. So we'll have now this. We'll copy this, come somewhere here, paste it, then target that p tag. If we go back, so now we have the style for the p tag. So we can just copy this. This is the style for the p tag, and come here and paste it. Let me format this. So for the p tag, we have given it a font family of Montserrat. We have given it a font style of normal. We are giving it a font width of 700, font size of 48, line height of 59, display flex, color this. Yeah. So pretty much it's once I save and go back, I have something like this. Yeah. So I think the font size is, should I increase or reduce it? Okay, let's see what we have here. Welcome to Crazy Town Car Wash. And we have something like this. So I think we are going to reduce this. That's what I think we are going to reduce this. We have 58. We have font size of 48. We have line height of 59. So, okay, let's leave it for now. Let's add the button that we have. So here we're going to add our button. So inside our button, we have make appointments. Make appointments. So we are now going to style the button. So center me, then button. B-U-T-T-O-N. So if we go back and click on this button, we have the style for the button. We just have, if we click on the text itself, we have the style for the text. So now let's style it now. So first of all, I want to remove the default border in a button, border none, outline none, because every border comes with a default border and outline, which I want to remove. So now if we go back, we can now copy what we have here. So we have background of this, border radius of this. So if we come back here and paste these and format, we have something like this. So we can now work on the text itself. So the text directly, we can just copy this and paste it here. Let's format also. So we have a border of this. Let me give this a margin top, because I guess it is much on top, the margin top of 20 PS. So this, I think this is pretty what we have for this. So once we save and save here and go back, we have something like this. So let's see what the problem is. So I think this needs a padding, if I'm not mistaken. We have a border, non-outline, non-background of this width. Okay, we can actually give it a width of 60%. We can give it a width and a height. So let's give it a width of, let's say, let me guess, 60% and a height of, let's say, 70 PS. So once we go back, we have something like this. It's towards the rear end. So let's see what the problem is. Why is it not at the center? So once we go back here, because we have a display flex on this, which we don't want, the display flex is making it move towards that side. So now everything looks fine. So now I want to reduce these to like 38. I think it's too big for my liking. Yeah, this is better. Welcome to Crazy Town Couch. Welcome to Crazy Town. Yeah, this is much better. So we can see we have this make appointment should be capital letters. Yes, should be capital letters. So instead of changing it from HTML, I can use a CSS style which is text transform. We have uppercase. So everything now in the capital letters. So we have this particular thing. Everything looks fine and beautiful. So now I will push to my GitHub and now end the series and create another one for this particular one. So I guess everyone followed through and you understood basically how the navigation and this particular background was created. So basically, we went through the Figma design and we created the nav bar, and we also created this particular one. Every code was gotten, every style was gotten from the Figma design. None was gotten from my head apart from few changes that we made to make our design look better. So now that we have done this, the next thing to do is to actually push our code to GitHub. So the other time I used my normal Windows terminal, but now you can use the terminal directly from your VS Code. So if you do git status, you can see it's showing you the files that you have changed and the files that is not tracking. And if we do a git branch, if we do a git branch, it will show you your active branch, which is the riches branch. So we are on riches branch. So we can do git add. We are adding everything. So another thing I want to explain is once you create a new file, it will show you, oh, because I've already added this there. Maybe in the next series, I will explain it very well. Let's just move ahead. In the next series, I will explain it very well. But that simply means that if you create a new file that it is not tracking, you will see U. Here you are seeing A and you are seeing M. But if you create a new file, you will see U. U means it is not tracking this file. But because I've done git add, it is now tracking the file and it has added it because of the git add. So if I do git commit and now do created the navbar for my website, something like that, and I close this. So you can see everything changed because they are now white in color because I have committed them. Git now knows about all these things. So I just have to push git push origin riches. Don't forget to use the name of your branch, git push origin riches. So it has pushed this to my riches branch. So I can go to my riches branch. As you can see, it's telling me I have made a push. You can see this is warning me that my main branch isn't protected. So you can see protect this branch from force pushing or deletion. So normally in a working environment, this branch should be protected so that people cannot push directly to this branch, which I'm not doing for this video. So I'll just compare and create a pull request. It will check if it is able to merge automatically. Of course, it is able to merge. So I will now create a pull request. So once I create a pull request, I can merge automatically to my main branch. So confirm merge, everything is actually working well. So this is where we'll end for this series. A new series is coming out for the next item we have here, which is actually, maybe we'll look at if we can merge this particular one and this one on the same series so that this and the footer will come in a later series. So thank you, or I'll see you in the next series.